In recent years, the relationship between China and the free world has intensified quickly. On July 21st, after the US ordered the closure of the Chinese Consulate in Houston, further action against Beijing was also seen in Europe and Australia. The United States, Japan, and Australia will soon hold military exercises in the South China Sea. At the same time, more military cooperation was seen between India and Russia. Is a new Cold War coming? On July 21st, the US government announced that it would close the US consulate in Houston within 72 hours. President Donald Trump said in a press conference on the 22nd that he would not rule out closing more Chinese consulates, while China refuses to cooperate. After the US ordered the Houston Chinese consulate closed, on allegations by officials that it was part of a larger Chinese espionage network, mass burning of documents was spotted on the night of the 21st at the Houston consulate. On the 24th, a fugitive left the San Francisco Chinese consulate and was arrested. Analysis indicated China's actions were presumably to prevent more consulates from being closed, after failing to pressure the US by closing the US embassy in Chengdu on the 23rd. American sinologist Perry Link told the BBC that the Communist Party's closure of the US consulate reflected its continued belief in equivalence with the US. But he personally doesn't accept the concept, as there is no equivalence between a democratic society and a totalitarian society. He also noted that in the diplomatic world, the mutual closure of consulates is a greater signal of deterioration in the relationship between the two regimes. The fugitive, named Tang Juan, was one of the 4 Chinese fugitives recently arrested in America. All of them have Chinese military backgrounds and were conducting research at several well-known American universities while concealing their true identities. Details of the case have not been released, but they may be charged with visa fraud among other crimes. U.S. Assistant Attorney General for National Security John C. Demers said in a statement that these members of China's People Liberation Army applied for research visas while hiding their true affiliation with the PLA. This is another part of the Chinese Communist Party's plan to take advantage of our open society and exploit academic institutions. If convicted, each person faces up to 10 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. As early as May of this year, the U.S. media revealed plans to revoke the visas of some 3,000 graduate students and researchers with backgrounds in Chinese military academies. The U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said in a speech on China policy at the Nixon Presidential Library on the 23rd that the Chinese Communist Party has carried out many acts inside the United States and that the CCP has become increasingly authoritarian, aggressive, and hostile abroad. This is the 4th time in a month that a senior U.S. state official has made a strong statement on China.
The biggest lie that they tell is to think that they speak for 1.4 billion people who are surveilled, oppressed, and scared to speak out. Quite the contrary, the CCP fears the Chinese people's honest opinions more than any foe. And save for losing their own grip on power, they have no reason to.
After Pompeo's visit to Europe, the political atmosphere in the UK has also changed. The Guardian reported that the pro-China voice in British politics has now completely evaporated. In July last year, Prime Minister Johnson said publicly that he was very pro-China and that Britain was the most open to investing in China, but his attitude has now changed.
We're going to be tough on some things, but also going to continue to engage.
Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab, who earlier announced the end of the extradition treaty with Hong Kong over the national security law, also extended the arms embargo on China to Hong Kong and considered sanctions against Chinese and Hong Kong officials. On July 24th, he announced that the UK was cutting back on foreign economic aid, including £71.6 million to China. In fact, the UK has been increasing aid to China over the past few years, which was said to be used to help resolve business disputes, urge China to support human rights, and to train Chinese workers. It has caused a major backlash in British society, with the public even more upset that the government is using taxpayers' money to help Chinese rivals compete with British companies. The British announced in July that it had banned Huawei and joined the lobbying effort to get EU countries to drop Huawei as well.
So to be clear, from the end of this year, telecoms operators must not buy any 5G equipment from Huawei. And once the telecom security bill is passed, it will be illegal for them to do so.
Reuters have reported on the 22nd that France changed its stance in 2 days and told telecom operators planning to buy Huawei's 5G devices that once the licenses expire, the operators will not be able to renew their licenses for the devices, gradually eliminating the Chinese company from France's mobile network. The source said the French Network Security Agency reported that most Huawei equipment in France is licensed for 3 to 5 years, while its European rivals, Ericsson and Nokia, have mostly been licensed for 8 years. Moreover, Italy and Brazil have used similar procedures to phase out Huawei, ultimately leading to a permanent ban. China's Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin responded on the 23rd that France had made a promise not to exclude Huawei, and he hopes and believes that the French will keep their promise. Meanwhile, the United States, Japan, and Australia will soon hold a military drill in the South China Sea, with the United States deploying 2 aircraft carriers. The scale of the drill is significant. However, Australian ABC reported on the 22nd an Australian naval fleet, which was heading to the Philippine Sea last week to join the US and Japan, encountered a Chinese warship near the disputed waters in the South China Sea, and the two sides had a standoff at close range. China also announced on the 23rd that it would conduct a military drill at the same time as the US, Japan, and Australia from the 25th onwards, and issued a sea closure notice to the country, saying that the ammunition used in the exercise is so powerful that the risk of being mistakenly bombed or injured by going out to sea without permission is extremely high. On July 25th, Australia rejected Beijing's territorial and maritime claims in the South China Sea in a formal declaration to the United Nations, aligning itself more closely with the United States in the escalating conflict. The Five Eyes position on China is getting closer and closer. On the other side of China, a deadly clash in May this year caused at least 20 Indian soldier casualties on the India-China border. Reuters quoted U.S. officials that both sides have now stationed more than 10,000 personnel on the border, and although both agreed for a disengagement, no action has been taken yet. On the other hand, India further increased their military cooperation with Russia. Taiwan military expert Wu Mingjae said Russia has delivered more than 600 tanks and 33 fighter jets, including Su-30s and MiG-29s, and also gave the key production technology to India. Although India and China are both allies to Russia, Russia didn't give the technology to China. Tensions between the two countries have also escalated since the beginning of 2020. For instance, the influx of Chinese into Russia to buy land, build factories, and loot resources, as well as the cover-up of the COVID-19 outbreak, had angered Russians and led to local anti-China protests. Adding to this, China's signing of a 25-year comprehensive cooperation agreement with Iran on July 20th may be a violation of its oil agreement with Russia, further fueling tensions. The Hindustan Times also reported that India had purchased a batch of medium-range air-to-ground missiles, known as Hammer, from France. According to Reuters, the French government will deliver the required quantity of missiles to India in priority over other buyers. It seems the Five Eyes, along with some of China's neighboring countries, are having a closer and closer position. Why does China seem to be the enemy of so many countries all of a sudden? Experts had pointed out 3 reasons. First, the CCP system is too centralized, and no one can tell those in power that their policies are in the wrong direction. Second, there's a serious power struggle within the CCP, with different factions acting on their own to protect their own interests, confusing intelligence agencies and causing those in power to make wrong decisions. Third, the CCP has been conducting anti-American, anti-Japanese, and anti-democratic education in China. Some Communist Party members are using this as a political achievement by carrying out those activities at home and abroad. The international community is gradually recognizing these united front operations, and a backlash is beginning to emerge. From this point of view, China is now surrounded by many countries in the South China Sea and along the China-India border in terms of military power. In terms of soft power, it is also being criticized by many countries in North America, Europe, Australia, and Asia. The new Cold War seems to have taken shape, and the alliance is gradually surfacing.